I've always hated hotels, the gross carpets, the uncomfortable beds, the dirty bathrooms. As someone who hates germs, staying in a hotel feels like a nightmare. Next time you're in a hotel, just think about it. You have no idea who was here before you or what they did on the furniture or the floor. If you bring a black light, you might even find out, but that's beside the point. Even though I hate hotels, I always end up staying in them. Sometimes, my family forces me on vacations, traveling with my parents and brothers. Other times, I get invited to boring work conferences far away. Every 3 months or so, I find myself in a new hotel. I first heard about the Gateway Hotel when my boss sent me an email on a Thursday. He was ordering me to go to a conference in Oregon to talk about merging our company with a smaller one. I sighed deeply and accepted that I would have to travel again to please the biggest jerk in the world. At least the pay was good. The very next day, just after midnight, I pushed open the creaky door to room 415 where I would be staying. I turned on the light, and the room looked just like any other hotel room. I put my luggage on the counter in the small kitchen area and sat on the bed to play on my phone until I was tired enough to go to sleep. As I looked around, I saw a painting of a blonde woman in a bright red dress on the wall opposite the bed. At first, she looked beautiful, but something felt wrong. Her hands were hidden behind her back in an odd way, and she stood in a way that seemed threatening, like she might jump out of the painting at any moment. Her face was twisted in an angry expression, but she still had a creepy smile. Her white teeth looked unnatural, and her eyes seemed to follow me wherever I moved. I felt really scared. Why would the hotel put something like this in the room? I shook my head and took the painting off the nail it was hanging from. I turned it to face away from me and leaned it against the wall. I didn't want her staring at me while I slept. But then, something crinkled under the bed when I sat back down after moving the painting. I stood up again and saw a light blue paper titled, "Welcome to the Gateway Hotel." It said, "Welcome to the Gateway Hotel. We hope you enjoy your stay. Here are some rules to keep you safe and happy. Do not destroy anything or move furniture. It makes cleaning hard, and you might get extra charges. Do not engage in any intimate activities. There's another hotel nearby for that. Turn off the TV all night to save electricity. Do not leave uncovered food in your room. Store it in the refrigerator or cabinets. In the middle of the night, do not leave your room from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock when the cleaning staff are working. If your room phone rings at 4:14 a.m., do not answer. Don't bring sand from the beach into your room. It annoys the cleaning staff. Keep your blinds closed at night to prevent others from looking in. Between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you might hear a child begging for help in the hallway. Do not look out your peephole or leave your room. If you see a maid with long blonde hair and a red uniform staring at you, look away and go back to your room. Our staff wear light blue uniforms. If a maid blocks your path to your room, go back to the lobby using the stairs, not the elevator. She won't follow you unless you make eye contact. Do not push the B2 button in the elevator. There is no second basement level. If you accidentally push B2, do not look or talk to anyone who comes up. Stand in front of the elevator buttons. Keep your head down. Press L to go to the lobby and tell the front desk what happened. Do not talk to anyone at B2. Do not enter room 414 if it is open, even if you hear someone calling your name. Do not approach or close the door. Contact the staff immediately. Room 414 is always locked. Thank you for choosing the Gateway Hotel. We hope you have a wonderful stay and follow the rules. Sincerely, the Gateway Hotel staff. What the heck? This must be some stupid prank from an irresponsible staff member trying to scare guests. I thought about calling the front desk to report this silly joke. I looked at the cheap digital clock on the nightstand. It was almost 12:30 a.m. I'm not the type to bother the front desk over something so small, but maybe I'll report it when I leave for my meeting tomorrow. I groaned, realizing I had to wake up at 4 o'clock to get ready. Luckily, I got some sleep on the flight here. I tried to settle into bed under the scratchy beige comforter, but I couldn't stop thinking about that strange paper on the floor. I closed my eyes, but then I opened them again. I had already broken the first rule by moving the creepy painting. Hesitantly, I sat up and looked at the wall opposite the bed. Even in the dark, I could see the painting was back up. A chill ran down my spine as I noticed the woman in the painting was even closer than before. Her face was even more twisted. I quickly lay back down and shut my eyes. I decided not to move the painting again. Maybe I was just being paranoid. And even if the rules were a joke, they still made me nervous. The painting was probably just my imagination from being so tired, but I was too scared to check. I decided to update later after talking to the front desk tomorrow morning. Edit. It's 1:12 a.m. and I can't sleep. I think I heard something tap on my window. I'm on the 4th floor, and I still don't understand what happened last night in this awful hotel. I'll try to tell my story so others don't have to stay here. Maybe it will stop someone else from booking a night at the Gateway Hotel. That would be good for my conscience. About an hour after my first post, while I was frozen in bed under the cheap comforter, I heard a tapping on my window. I didn't want to get up to look, but I wanted to make sure it was just a tree or something. I stood up and crept to the curtained window in the dark. I avoided looking at the painting, not wanting to see the woman again. I knew she was still there, staring at me. Her eyes seemed to follow me as I walked across the room to the window. The tapping continued, almost rhythmic. My fingers wrapped around the curtains and pulled them back quickly, not even giving myself time to hesitate. Damn, I really wish I had hesitated. I never expected to see the grotesque face of a man staring back at me. His face looked like it was rotting. He grinned at me, showing yellow and brown teeth. His sunken eyes met mine as he clung to the window, tapping with a long fingernail on his twisted, wrinkled hand. I had convinced myself it was just a tree tapping on the window, not some zombie man who reached my window on the 4th floor. I hate to admit it, but I screamed and fell back, landing on the floor. But there was no balcony outside, and nowhere for this guy to stand to reach my window unless he was Spider-Man. I grabbed the phone and quickly dialed the front desk number that was stuck on the phone with masking tape. Hello, this is the Gateway Hotel's front desk. How may I help you? Hello, yeah, there's some guy outside my window tapping on the glass. I'm on the 4th floor. How? The front desk replied. Please refer to the list of rules the hotel provided you with. If you read the 8th rule, you should have kept your windows covered. But I'm on the 4th floor. That's never stopped anyone from peeking in. Please ignore any tapping that may follow now that you've acknowledged the rules. They will continue tapping all night. Remember to follow the rest of the rules carefully. Have a good night, Mom. The phone line went dead. I slammed the phone back onto the receiver, cursing. I walked over to where the rules were on the floor and picked them up. I smoothed the paper and read it over and over. I put my head in my hands, sitting in the room that looked so normal just an hour ago. Eventually, I put the rules on my nightstand and lay down on the bed. I looked at the digital clock. It showed 1:46 a.m. I jumped and hid under the covers as the tapping on the window started again. I tried to sleep, but it was impossible. The tapping and my growing fear kept me awake for hours until the alarm on my phone went off at 4 o'clock. almost making me scream. I got ready for my meeting, anxious to leave the hotel. I checked the rules again to make sure I could leave the room. The clock read 4:13 a.m. I sighed in relief, thinking I could finally go. But suddenly, the phone rang. I turned around to see the clock now read 4:14 a.m. I left the room quickly. When I looked back at my window from outside the hotel, the zombie guy was gone. There were no trees nearby. Even after the meeting ended successfully, I tried to stay away from the hotel as much as possible. I even called my boss to ask if I could stay at another hotel, but he just complained about the high cancellation fee and said the Gateway Hotel was the cheapest in the state. I knew I couldn't afford the cancellation fee or a new hotel room for the night. So, I was stuck in this horrible hotel until my flight left at noon the next day. I returned to the hotel at about 10 p.m. that night. I didn't want to risk going back any later. On my way through the empty lobby to the elevator, I asked the front desk about maybe transferring rooms, but they told me all the rooms were booked. As I walked into the elevator, I realized I hadn't seen anyone else in the hotel besides the front desk staff. If they were all booked, shouldn't I have seen someone by now or heard them on my way up to my room? I saw the elevator button for B2, but I didn't feel like pushing it. There was so much tension in the air as I walked down the silent, dimly lit hallway to my room. I reached the door and unlocked it with my key. I walked in and turned before closing the door. My room was right across from room 414. The door was closed and looked so ordinary, but something about it made me uneasy. I thought I saw a flash of red past my door as I closed it. So here I was, stuck in the Gateway Hotel for another night. I was in the room across the hall from the supposed nightmare room. I was in the room where a zombie man tapped on my window and where a demon painting watched me. I reread the rules again. As long as I followed them, I should be fine, right? I made sure my curtains were closed, double-checked that I didn't leave any food out, didn't push the B2 button in the elevator, and didn't answer the phone at 4:14 a.m. I just had to make it until noon the next day. But then, something knocked on my door at 1:54 a.m. I'm not supposed to look out of my peephole between 1 and 4, but they were still knocking. The rules didn't say anything about that. I was finally out. Spoiler alert. I survived for now with only some emotional scars. However, I don't know how long I'll be able to celebrate because I think I broke another rule by accident. The consequences might be more severe this time. I'm only posting this now to warn you again. Do not book a room at the Gateway Hotel. Back to where I left off, it was 1:54 a.m. when I posted, and something was pounding on my door. I knew I couldn't open the door or look out of the peephole. I wasn't about to break any rules again. Do not leave your room from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I wanted to call the front desk, but based on my earlier experience, I knew they would ignore my fear and tell me to follow the rules again. So, that's what I planned to do for the next 8 hours and 36 minutes. I just had to make it until 10:30 a.m. when I could leave for the airport and finally get out of here. I gave up any hope of getting sleep that night as the rhythmic pounding on my door continued. As much as I wanted to know who or what was knocking, I knew it wasn't safe to check. I turned on my bedside lamp and sat on the bed, watching the door shake with every knock. Thank goodness I used the chain lock and the regular lock because I was staying in a nightmare hotel. I couldn't look away from the door until the pounding finally stopped 6 minutes later at exactly 2 o'clock. Everything was quiet for the next hour. No tapping on my window, no knocks on my door, nothing. Even though I was still right across from the creepiest painting ever, the woman in it hadn't moved since the night before. Since I hadn't tried to move her again, she stayed in her place. I was starting to think I might be able to sleep that night until I heard a quiet, muffled male voice calling from the hallway outside my room. Mama. It felt like all the blood in my body turned to ice. My eyes went wide, and I slowly turned to look at my clock. It was 3:02 am. The rules said that between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you might hear a child begging for help in the hallway. I turned back to face the door as I heard the child start to cry. Mama, Mama. The crying got louder as the child got closer to my door. My hands shook and curled into fists as the light from the hallway poured under my door, blocking in 2 spots like someone was standing directly outside. Even then, I jumped when I heard a soft knock on my door. Excuse me, Mom. Can you help me find my mama? I'm lost. Oh, hell no. I knew everything else in this place was terrifying, but this was something else, a horror movie cliche. Why does it always have to be a creepy demon child? How does it know I'm a mom? I stayed silent as I heard another knock on my door. The rules said it was important not to look out of the peephole or leave the room. No one needed help at that hour. Mum, please open the door. I'm scared. Well, me, sideways kiddo. I'm pretty scared too. I just gritted my teeth and ignored the child's desperate pleas for help. This continued for the next 20 minutes until I heard a sniffle and footsteps passing by my door. My relief was short-lived because at 3:24 am, a loud tap sounded against my window. I jumped again, but quickly calmed myself down. Oh, it's just your friendly hotel zombie Spider-Man, I told myself, glaring at the curtains that hid the windows. Surprisingly, I wasn't even that scared this time. Maybe it was because I realized that if I didn't look at it, it would leave me alone. The desire to look at him again was gone. I was more scared of the creepy lady in the painting. There were no more taps on my window after that, and for the next hour, everything was calm again. I took the time to pack up my few belongings from my suitcase. I didn't unpack much and probably could have slept, but I just watched the clock on my bedside table. At 4:02 am, the clock hit 4:14 am. I braced myself, waiting for the phone to ring next to the clock. But this time, the call never came. I couldn't leave fast enough. Even though it had been calm and quiet for the past few hours, I hadn't let my guard down yet. That morning at 10 o'clock, I cautiously peeked out of my room and stepped outside. I dragged my suitcase out and locked the door behind me. I glanced at room 414. It was closed and presumably locked. I took a deep breath, looked down at my shoes, and quickly walked down the dim hallway. I was almost at the elevator when I heard a loud unlocking sound behind me. I froze and turned around without thinking. Room 414 was open. I was far away, but I knew it was room 414, the room right across from mine. Do not enter room 414 if it is open. Standing next to the open door was a blonde woman in a red maid uniform. I immediately recognized her. She was the scary woman with the angry, twisted face from the painting. She was smiling that same white, toothy smile, and her empty eyes fixed on mine. Her hands were hidden behind her back, and she looked like she was about to run down the hallway at me. If you see a maid with long blonde hair and a red uniform staring at you, look away, return to your room, and tell the staff. I quickly looked away, remembering the rule that made me so uneasy. I reached for the elevator button, desperate to get away from her as fast as I could. If the maid is blocking your path to your room, go back to the lobby using the stairs, not the elevator. I jerked my hand away from the elevator button and, without looking back, yanked open the door to the stairs. I dragged my wheeled suitcase down 4 flights of stairs. When I reached the bottom and opened the lobby door, I heard the stairs door open above me. She will not follow you unless you make prolonged eye contact. Oh God, did I look at her for too long? Did she see me? I slammed the stairs door shut behind me, trying not to think about it. I almost threw my key at the front desk. The two workers smiled at me, and one of them said in a slow, amused voice, "Hope you enjoyed your stay." Haha, yeah, I didn't, I replied through gritted teeth. Room 414 is open. Just thought you should know. I left the lobby in a hurry and got into the car I had called earlier. It arrived after only 2 minutes, and I wasted no time throwing my bag and myself into it as fast as I could. As the car pulled out of the parking lot, I noticed it was almost empty, with only 2 cars there. The people at the front desk had told me the whole hotel was booked just last night, but the parking lot was empty, and I never saw anyone except the front desk staff. I shuddered and turned back for one last glance at the hotel. I saw something red in one of the 4th-floor windows. I think it was waving at me as the car turned the corner, and it disappeared from my sight. She will take that as an invitation. God, I hope I didn't look at her for too long. It was just a quick glance, right? I didn't mean to look. How long is too long? How far would she even follow me? I hope I don't have to find out. I sped away from the Gateway Hotel, my heart still racing from the night's terrifying events. The hotel's eerie presence stayed with me as I drove, making me wonder if I would ever truly escape its haunted halls.